Hey everybody, Bugsy here with UmpireTeacher.com, and here we go into our three-man system, three-umpire system, and this is our simplified version because the reason I came up with it this way is so many of you work the two-man system throughout most of your season, and you don't see the three-man system till the championship or the playoffs of your particular league. So this way, what I try to do is simplify it so when we do have a base umpire go out, we simply revert to the two-man system. You do that in the advanced three-man also, but I'm going to try to keep things simple, not as many variables, because since you're only working at 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe even a dozen games a season, if you're not working it every day, the three-man system, there's no reason to get all fancy-dancy out there. Let's just keep it nice and simple, and that way you can do it. You can do it. It won't be because again, remember when you first started umpiring, everything you had to think, and you couldn't react. Well, we want to do the same thing with the three-man. I don't want you out there thinking about every move you got to make. If you only got to remember a few specific items, that way you can still react and be a good umpire in the playoffs and the championships. All right, so let's start with nobody on base. Got a first base umpire, third base umpire, home plate umpires right there. And just to let you know, batter runner, we all know what a batter runner is. It's the batter when he hits the ball, he becomes the batter runner. But to simplify it, I just kept it as the BR, batter runner, right off the bat. So when we start getting into the diagrams, you'll know what I'm talking about. So this starts out, though, with nobody on base. We always start with the first base umpire and the third base umpire facing home. You're 10 to 12 feet behind the first baseman in this case. Same thing over here. It's approximate distance, 10 to 12 feet behind the third baseman. All right, you're facing home plate, you're square to home plate. Both feet are in foul territory. All right, and in the first base umpire, his right foot's just off the line. Third base umpire, his left foot is just off the line. So let's take a close-up view of that. As you can see here, we wouldn't have him, he would not straddle it, and he would not be on top of it. He'd be just to the, in this case would be to the left of it. Okay, that's your right foot just off the line. And then again, you're 10 to 12 feet back. Now, this outfield grass line, don't let it fool you. Things are not exactly as they should be. I'm just making things large enough so you can see what's going on. Now, let's try this. What if we took our first baseman and he came up? Now, do you still go 10 to 12 feet behind the first baseman? No, you do not, because then you would get too tight in here, and then you'd be fighting to try to get good angle and distance on plays, ground balls where you're taking plays at first base. So what you do, just like in the two-man, what you do is you're staying 10 to 12 feet behind the bag if the first baseman gets too tight into the infield this way. So now let's go over to third base. The close-up over there, same thing right here. He's facing home. He's just off the line. His left foot is off the foul line. He's not straddling, and he's not on top of it, just off of it. Now, in many cases, you'll see this more often where the third baseman's coming up for the bunt, and you're most definitely, as an umpire, you're not going to come all the way up. It's just too tight. Again, you're going to be 10 to 12 feet from the bag, from the third base bag. Okay? So it keeps it nice and simple. If you remember that 10 to 12 feet distance, and remember, you experience guys, and as you gain experience, you're adjusting. You don't have to be exact. A lot of things are all about experience, getting a feel of where you should be, knowing what the play is going to be, anticipating different situations, and so forth. Now, it's been asked of me, Bugsy, do we always have to be in the set position down here? The set position, by definition, is your hands on your knees, square to the play, and in this case, square to home plate. I would suggest if you're a rookie, go with that until you're really used to being standing up and facing and in set position. You can be in a stand-up set position. The key to everything in umpiring is being focused. So if you're standing up in a set position and you're ready to go, I don't have a problem with that as long as you're focused. Now remember, everybody, as I teach you these things, if your association or your umpires group, if they have a specific way, if they want you in a set position, then you do it that way. Of course, you work it the way that they have their preferences and so forth. But these are pro mechanics that I'm teaching you, and as you can see in the major leagues, some guys do not get in a set position. They're in a standing set, and that's okay. Like I say, it's all about focus. But by no means am I trying to tell you your association is full of beans or anything like that. If they don't like a certain mechanic that we teach, you know, you're going to have to go with the flow to keep them happy too, because they are assigning you ball games. But at least this will give you a good foundation, and you'll be able to understand what this is all about, the three-man system and how to work it properly. If somebody gives you a different adjustment, or you go to a playoff game and your crew chief he's got different ideas, at least you'll have a better idea now. Even if he changes it a little bit on you, you'll know the three-man system. Let's discuss the three-man system with nobody on base, and we're going to talk about fly balls. Fly balls, and we're going to use the same references we used with our pause, read, and react in our two-man system. We'll use the same thing in the three-man. There was some discussion about going out on every fly ball, and that's been discussed by various entities. But Vic Votaggio, my partner in UmpireTeacher.com, he's a retired Major League World Series umpire, and we had a good discussion about this, and Vic and I agree. The problem with sending a umpire out every time there's a fly ball, I mean, it's the easier way to go. So if your umpire chief or your association wants you to do it, just do it. Then you just rotate accordingly. I've got that in part of the video, but I wanted to also show you a way to do it where you're not always going out, because sometimes there's just, you know, you got a can of corn, you got these easy fly balls, and in reality you don't need an umpire out on that. So we're going to show you our 4 reasons why to go out. All right, if you're in your jurisdiction, if a outfielder is charging in, number 1, if he's charging in. Number 2, if the fielders are converging. So in other words, they're coming together like so. Let's see, get these arrows to work. If they're going back to the fence or the wall, even if it's just one of them, again, depending on your jurisdiction. And if, of course, they're going towards the foul line. If one of the fielders is going towards the foul line, then, you know, with nobody on base, keep in mind we have nobody on base, then this umpire, base umpire, if it be third base, he'd go out. If it's down the right field line, it would be our first base umpire. So with that said, let's show you what it's going to look like. If you don't go out, then it's simply like this. Say we have a ball hit to right field, nothing to go out on, nice easy catch. What happens is your batter runner comes up. Your first base umpire is watching the ball, but what he does is he gives the stop sign with his hand. He holds his hand out, his right hand out to his plate partner to let him know that he's staying in, but he's still got the ball. This is still his ball because it's in his jurisdiction, correct? But since it's an easy catch, all you have to do is come up the line, stay in the foul territory, batter runner comes by, and just like we would do on a pivot, except we're not pivoting here necessarily, is we're coming up, watching the ball, glancing at the runner. Watch the ball, glance at the runner, and then in this case it's the batter runner, and you just come down and you keep an eye on him. This man in that situation, the third base umpire, would come across, and what would this umpire do? Just like in a two-man, he would just come out towards the ball. All right. Now, what would change if he did go out on a ball like this? Of course, now this umpire has to come up the line. Usually with a fly ball in the two-man, what do? You come out this way because you're going to follow that batter runner. And if you've done the three-man enough, you can also come down the foul line. They're advocating at P-Buck. So let's do it this way. If you're used to doing this, coming out this way, then keep it that way. Again, keep it as an extension of the two-man. The reason I'm throwing in these other things is so you're aware of it. If you're with a crew that's very experienced, you guys can work it that way. But we'll keep it simple. He comes up, and this is on a ball that he does go out on. He comes up, and what's his responsibility? The plate umpire. It's the batter runner in first base. Okay, so if he comes around, the batter runner, if he comes around, let me get my batter runner, and he comes back, that play belongs to him. Now, what if my batter runner were to go to second base? Okay, that's this umpire right here. And that's how you handle that. Now, again, with nobody on, let's talk about why you wouldn't go out with nobody on. And this time we're going to hit the ball. Nice, easy catch out in this area. In this case, third base umpire watches the ball, but he comes across. And again, in this case, he's telling this umpire that he's coming across. He might hold the stop sign to him. That's actually a good mechanic. Stop sign, I mean arm extended with a palm open, and you're putting a stop sign up to your partner. In this case, he's going to come in and pivot for the batter runner coming around. All right, he's watching the catch, no catch, and he comes across. In case he does drop it, then he's here to take that play. So that's how that goes with not going out in that situation. Now I got them both running around. Hey, you two are connected. Hold on here. So to try to summarize, to explain this to you, if you don't go out on every ball that doesn't fit under this category, okay, and you come down the foul line and give the stop sign to your plate umpire, who will now come out in front like you would in a two-man, this is a different mechanic for this first base umpire, because he's used to, most of you guys are used to coming in and pivoting. But since fly balls, anywhere that comes in, it comes all the way over in this territory, anywhere in here belongs to this umpire, he has to have somewhat of a different mechanic, okay? And that mechanic is simply to come down, keep my eye on the ball, and glance at the runner when he hits first, and stay right with it. And if there's a throwback, I can come back in here, okay? Now, let's say, just out of habit, he decides to come in and pivot. Well, we know that when you do a proper pivot, the ball is usually being caught at that moment, just as you're pivoting to watch him. The ball's hitting the glove. So in that case, you're going to need some help from the plate umpire. So do you understand what I'm saying? What I'm saying is, if this is the proper mechanic, so I can keep an eye on the ball and still the batter runner. Watch the ball, glance at the runners. But if by habit I come in and pivot, the plate umpire has to be aware of this and be on his toes and be ready to make the call of a catch, no catch. If by chance that lazy fly ball gets dropped by, say, the right fielder, then he's going to have to be on top of it. So keep that in mind. Why do I go out? Fielders charging in, especially this one here from the center fielder, diving in here, okay? That's my ball right there. Even if it's only a step or two, I tell my partner I'm going out, and then my plate umpire has to come up and take that batter runner, okay? Very important, because once you're out, you stay out. Even if it's only 20, 25 feet from first base, this now belongs to him because you're officially out. Remember that, okay? P-Buck now has the umpire coming down foul territory, but I would suggest to keep it simple because you're used to in the two-man working the diamond within the diamond. But just remember, you got your second base umpire right there, and you don't have to continue on. So let me explain something, everybody. What's my resource? My resource is always my own experience. I believe in professional mechanics. That's what we're teaching, professional mechanics for the amateur umpire. And so my sources are P-Buck, Professional Baseball Umpire Corporation, Vic Votaggio, Major League umpire, World Series umpire, and he's worked a lot of two-man, three-man, and four-man, and also talking to different umpires over the years. So this won't be exactly like P-Buck, won't be exactly like Vic wouldn't be exactly like I would like. I took the best of everything, and if anything, I leaned towards what Vic and I thought would be best for the amateur umpire dealing with this. So if you have some material from P-Buck that contradicts what I'm saying. I'm aware of what they're teaching right now, and I think it's good, but we want to add a few things so that your umpire-in-chief or association leader has some options, and he can tell you what to do. See, because here's what's going to happen. You're going to learn this, and you just might be dealing with a crew chief of the three-man crew on a playoff game, and he might have his ways of doing things. So this way you're aware of it, okay? You might have a crew chief, he says, I want you to go out on everything, base umpires. You might have a crew chief who says, don't go out on everything. Just go out on things that are tough catch, no catch. Okay, so that's where we're coming from here with UmpireTeacher.com. I'm trying to keep it simple, but the three-man sometimes has some variables here. So hopefully we'll get through the fog. So with that said, here's our batter runner. Okay, right here. Nobody on base, and if you did the system where you didn't go out on every ball, you would use what we use in the two-man. We use our pause, read, and react when we're on the bases. And when do we go out? When the fielder's charging in, it looks like he's going to make a diving catch. Maybe the fielders are converging, could be a catch, no catch. When the fielder or fielders are going back to the fence or wall. Or anytime the fielder goes towards the foul line. We use the same thing in the two-man system. And this is, if we use this in the three-man, then we would not go out on every fly ball, only in these situations. Now, if we got rid of that and we decided we are going to go out in every fly ball, then you know what the jurisdiction is. Okay, so when he goes out, just remember the plate man has to move. He comes across. This man, third base umpire, is always coming across for the most part. But the key with not always going out is you're not beating up your plate man to run a lot. So it's one thing when you're in your 20s and you're running around, you got a lot of great energy, but sometimes we got 40 and 50-year-old guys sitting behind a plate, and then maybe they're not, their knees are hurting, they got a bad back, whatever the case may be, and we got them running all day. I'll tell you what, by the third inning, he's going to kick you in the head. So don't, you know what I'm talking about? So if that crew chief is smart, he's going to tell you not to go out on everything, but you just never know, okay? Because Vic and I are talking about that. This guy, because every time this guy goes out, he's got to come up and cover the batter runner. And that's some serious running. And you don't cover him from here. You got to get out there. All right? So that's the theory versus theory. Here's another issue I want to take note to. In the three-man, sometimes the jurisdictions are different. Okay? I do like what P-Buck did in their basic three-man. They're saying a ball that's, that little humpback or that sharp little liner that hits the dirt real quick, and this center fielder's diving for it, straight in for it. Well, in the two-man, that's his jurisdiction, the first base umpire. So I like that, and we stay consistent with that. Okay? We're going to stay consistent with that. This whole territory here is this umpire. In some three-man jurisdictions where the center fielder comes in, they sometimes have this umpire take that. But we are not going to do that. I'm not going to even give you that option. I just know you're going to hear about it. And if you can, you tell your crew chief, look, I'd like to stay, if you're going to work first base and you're used to going out on that ball that comes streaming in, you're not going to get that far, by the way. You might get a couple steps. Tell your crew chief, I'd like to keep that jurisdiction for me. That's what I'm used to. Okay? And they might say to you, well, with the runner on base, let me get my batter runner back here. Jumping around, but I need to on this jurisdiction subject. They might say to you, well, he's in here, and you're there. Okay, and here comes that humper. He's closer. Well, you know what? So what? He's still got that flat view, just like as if he was down here. When that umpire tries to make that call, that plate umpire, he's got no angle. It's a flat dimension. So you got to take this guy because he's got the angle. And that's what P-Buck, and that's what P-Buck is advocating. Just keep consistent on these jurisdictions. When that ball comes in, whether there's a runner on base or not, that's still my call. I got a good look at it. Okay? So the more experienced guys are working three-man, they can switch that up. But I'm talking about a basic three-man to stay consistent from what you learned from the two-man. So unless your crew chief drives it down your throat and says, no, I want it this way, I'm telling you, it's a lot easier going this way. So when I talk with these general rules, keep in mind, very important, because we'll get into specific jurisdictions and where the umpires go. But for instance, if he would go out, once an umpire goes out, a base umpire, he stays out. Always remember that. Once you're out, you stay out. I'll say it again. You go out, you stay out. And once that happens, these two umpires revert to the two-man. Same thing if it was turned around, whereas the third base umpire would go out, he would come in and pivot, and now we're into a two-man system, okay? And you would do what you normally do in a two-man. That's what keeps it nice and simple sometimes. So remember that. Once one base umpire goes out, he stays out. I cannot emphasize that enough. Okay, let's talk about fair ball, foul ball decisions right now. And I emphasize this also in the two-man because I see so many guys mess this up. And if you've got a ball down the line, remember, it is the plate umpire's call up to the bag. Anything from the bag on is the base umpires. Let me get the draw up there. Is the base umpires, okay? And what I see what umpires are doing that aren't properly trained is what they'll do, okay? Ball comes down the line, it gets past the bag, and this umpire right here, he's still calling fair or foul. And once it gets up to the bag, it belongs to this umpire. Remember that. And it works the same way down the third base foul line. It gets up to the bag, it belongs to this umpire. Remember that. You have it, the plate umpire has it from the plate up to the bag, third base line or the first base line. Same difference. Once it gets to the bag, you've got to relinquish that call to the base umpire. Okay? Now, if the base umpire gets blocked out or whatever, sometimes that happens, this plate umpire, he can help. But other than that, remember that general rule. We use it in the two-man system too. Now, we're bopping around here a little bit, and we're going to come back to specific situations. Don't worry, but I want to get on some important general rules for you. All right, here we go. Ground balls, nobody on base. Ball, let's say it's hit to the shortstop. It can be hit anywhere, of course. So any ground ball that's going to be fielded looks something like this. Our plate umpire, just like in the two-man system, comes right up the line, straddles the line, goes no farther than the 45-foot line, 45-foot mark, halfway, and you jog. You don't have to sprint up for you young guys who can really move. Our first base umpire comes in and gets his angle. We always talk 90 degrees. They're saying right angle to. That's another way of putting it, right angle. And, of course, that's the appropriate way to say it also, is you would go like so and then like so and get your angle. Now, here's the key to the three-man, which happens a lot in these ground ball situations. Your third base umpire comes across and is ready to take that play at second base. Okay, very important. I would come across right through the diamond. Now, of course, if you got to use your head a little bit here. You got a ground ball to the shortstop. You're going to be behind the play. But let's take a situation here that might come up, where the shortstop's coming through. Let's say third baseman comes across, misses it. The shortstop's coming across. Of course, you've got to wait till the fielder does his thing, and then you bust your butt and get in position. And this umpire's taking the call at first base. Plate umpire, like I said, comes up. So this is for any ground ball, and except, of course, a ball down the line. You know that the plate umpire has to stay on the line then. He's got to come out from behind the plate, get right on the line. Our base umpire here would stay on the line also. Now, this is a good play to discuss. Say we got a ball right down the line towards, it could be fair, foul, and the third baseman's going to get it. Okay? So what happens is once the third baseman has the ball, and if it's before the bag, who calls the play? The plate umpire, as far as fair and foul, correct? Once he has the ball and he points it in fair, at that point you take off if you're the third base umpire and get in position. Now, what happens if it gets past the bag? You have to stay there and make that call, all right? So I'm going to put the third baseman back here, and we're going to let him make the play, but what's going to happen is it's going to go down the line, fair, foul, it's going to go past the bag. Plate umpire still is on the line there so he can see it, but what happens once it reaches the bag, it's the base umpire's call on third base. All right, once the third baseman has the ball and he's ready to make his play, you pointed in the ball. You pointed the ball fair. Of course, if you call foul, the play's dead. But you pointed in fair, and once he starts to make his play, you bust your butt and you get over here. Same thing. Now, what would the plate umpire do? As soon as he points it in fair, let's take him back, start over, he points it in fair, and the third baseman has it, and now he's going to start to make his play. The plate umpire has to cut across and try to get over there on the line to help out if there needs to be help. And then our third base umpire would cut over. Okay? Okay, with nobody on base, everybody, and you got a base hit. Here's your ball, and your ball's hit out here. It's a base hit, clean single. Boom, see it? There, we got it. So in that situation, nobody on base, batter runner comes around. You got your third base umpire coming across, and he's there to take a potential play at second. You've got your first base umpire stays in foul territory, comes down in the first base area. And then you got your plate umpire who comes up to play at third base. Okay, new techniques now have the plate umpire staying foul and making calls from foul territory. Some of the old veterans will tell you he's got to come in. And if you come in, that's fine too. It's you can go either way. Whatever for you guys are so used to the two-man, coming in, there's not a problem with that at all. So come on in and take your play there, because he's going to have the play at second. If there is one, if there's a play at third, your plate man is there, and then your first base umpire, once this batter runner has got second made or is definitely committed to second, you know he's just a few feet from second, no chance of him coming back. Very important. Back the way P-Buck teaches it now on the basics is they want to wait till he's right at second, because you still have plenty of time. If he gets to second, you come down here and you got that play at home if you're the first base ump. In the olden days, they used to say once he's committed to second. But I do like the new thinking now. They're saying once he's at second, then you release first and come down. Because trust me, you'll be able to get down to the plate before he comes all the way around. Okay. Now let's have some practical thinking. Of course, if it's a double and it's way in the gap and you know he's got second made even before he gets to second, go ahead and start releasing first and be down there waiting for the play. You can see the rotation, and notice that the first base umpire, this is a clean base hit. It's obvious, and he's coming down here, and it's potential double and so forth. So you might ask, well, Bugsy, why don't we have him pivot? Well, because in this situation, let's start over, and it's going to come to you as I start to do it. Batter runner's down here. Okay, base hit, obvious base hit. Well, guess who's going to be at second? Right there. There's your third base umpire. And if you do get a throwback for some reason, you come in here and there is an actual throwback, you know, say from the outfielder comes in here, there you are. You're ready to take that play. You can take it like this, right on top of it with a vertical, somewhat of a vertical view, or you can actually just take these arrows off. If you need to, you can get into a cutout and see it real good too. So that's how that works, because in this rotation, as I stated before, the plate umpire, he's going to have the responsibility at third base. All right, so that's the way we do that. Now, when would you have the first base umpire come in and pivot? You would on fly balls to left field or center field over. He's going to go out. Your plate umpire is going to go like he usually does in the two-man, comes out in front of the plate. You're gonna, if you're the first base umpire, you're gonna come in and pivot, and you got the batter runner at first, second, and third, because that's the way we do the two-man with a fly ball. And if it was dropped, of course, the base umpire would come all